Okay, this is going to be a short video, I hope, on some tools that I have in my collection, and they're going to vary between different types of tools. But I just want to show you the distinctions between the tools, and how it's very noticeable, at least with this collection. Okay, so I'll start with what looks to be a chopper of some sort. This is all rounded off and feels smooth. So you hold it like this and you're chopping with it like this. So that's a definite chopping tool. You can tell it was made specifically for smashing. Now you're probably not going to smash onto a hard surface like another stone, right? You're not going to be doing that. You're going to probably be cutting on the ground or something to maybe separate stalks from roots or something, so you can cook the roots, or something similar, something that won't dull these edges. You know, if you're doing this on sand or dirt, you're not going to dull it. So that I've got quite a few of this type of tool in this collection. Various choppers that are just nodules chipped on one side with one side smoothed over, or just a natural smooth stone. Okay, this is river gravel, pretty common stuff here. I keep saying here. I'm in West Texas. This is from Central Texas. I do have some of this in other nodules, but it's not this bad. This is pretty bad stuff. So I guess they notice it's pretty bad, so they use it as a chopper instead of trying to get the material from this for a projectile point or something. Okay. Although I have seen choppers made of very good material. Let's see. For instance, this one here. Natural rounded surface of the nodule. It's used as a chopper, or what they call them Kerrville knives here in Texas. The ones that have large blades, but they get worn down too. They break and they get worn down. So this may have started as a larger blade. Again, you're going to have to chop on something soft, or this will break off and it will not be sharp. So I imagine they were processing some sort of vegetable matter or even meat, right? As long as you can put down a bed of grass or something and you can chop meat apart, or you separate bone. In the joint area, you can separate by prying apart the cartilage and stuff. But I think most of this stuff was used to process vegetable matter. They were cooking and roasting a lot of roots, so I would say that they were separating the stalks from the roots. You know, you go and you harvest the whole stalk and the root together, right? So you either chop it at the site of gathering, or you bring it to the campsite and then chop it later. Anyway, that's my theory on these vegetable matter processing. Let's see, I've got more of these. Another chopper, and it fits well in the hand. I mean, immediately you can tell this is a hand tool and which way they were using it. This angle is very nice, and there's no sharp edges anywhere where I touch, and you can tell there's battering damage to this side. So this was a chopper of some sort, or maybe even a scraper. But it could even be a woodworking tool where you're just chopping at the edge of the piece of wood. Let's see. I have a million sticks, but not here. Oh, let's see. Anyway, I think you get the idea. This can be used to chop on a side of a piece of wood like this. If this was a piece of wood, you can chop to taper it down or make a point on it or something like that with this edge. Okay, or you can chop roots off of stalks, something like that. Okay, another smaller chopper. Again, the angle here fits perfect in the hand. It's a pretty sharp point on this one, and it can be used to cut meat and process a carcass, I imagine, right? It's kind of crude. And these have been sitting in my yard, and the dogs unfortunately have been trampling on it until I cover them with dirt. So there's some modern little dings on it, recent little dings, but not too bad. So yeah, now I got it, most of the stuff partially buried in my yard, so the dogs don't, when they're walking over it, they don't bang them up against each other. Okay. Another chopper type tool of some sort. Obvious edge preparation on this one. Could be a scraper, but again, when it's this rounded and this large, it's a heavy duty chopper. It has a lot of weight behind it. So to use it as a scraper, it would get tiring, but to use it as a chopper, you can let the weight do the work. See, all these are heavy. These are all very heavy. So you're letting the weight basically do the work for you. You lift it up and then let it drop down, and it's less fatiguing if you do it that way. I do have some scrapers in here, some obvious scrapers. I'll bring those out. Like this one here has an obvious worked edge, and it's pretty straight. And you can see that it was probably used in this way to scrape. And this can be used to process a hide by scraping the flesh off from the inside of the hide. Right? It can also be used to scrape wood or clean off bone. You know, deflesh a bone with something like this. This is a side scraper, right? This is what they call a side scraper, but this is obviously a scraper. It has no other flaking to make it look like a biface, right? It's just it's a utilized flake, what they call a utilized flake, with one edge worked to get the sharpness they needed, and the bevel creates a little bit of strength, right? Instead of having just a extremely sharp natural edge, they bevel it, and it can be used as a scraper of some sort. And this area feels a little bit worn, still a little bit sharp here. You know, it's not perfectly worn down, but you can tell it's, especially right here in this area, it's worn down. Okay, now this could be hafted into a stick as well. It might not have been held in the hand. It could have been hafted to a stick, and the stick held in the hand for whatever they were doing. Okay. Another type of scraper. It's an obvious scraper in my view. It's a unifacial tool. This presents a very nice surface for edge preparation. All you have to do is nap in one direction to get a nice even edge. And this is worked all the way around. So this would be very good, hafted or in the hand as a scraper to process whatever you're processing. And it looks like a hide scraper, right? This edge is kind of worked as well, so it can be used this way. It's, you know, it's worked all the way around, all the way up to this point. This feels a little bit worn, but not much, so it may have been hafted or wrapped, because it still feels a little bit sharp, which is surprising. Surprising if it was held in the hand, right? Because you can easily give yourself a real sore spot on your hand by using something that has a sharp edge. Okay, but a lot of these tools have the unifacial look to them. Nice material, high grade shirt, easy to nap. That's probably why they chose it. You can nap a sharp edge on that quickly. Now this resembles one of the one of the bifaces I showed in the last video, right, where you have long flakes to thin something down, and one side is pretty much the original flake scar. But this one has worked edges here and here. This looks napped, and this one just looks utilized, like it was utilized as a saw or something. This doesn't look intentionally napped. It looks like it's incidental damage because they're using it to saw or something like that. This could also be used as a scraper on this edge, but I think it was just used on these two edges here, this one and that one, and probably as a saw. All right, you can do the crude sawing on this side and flip it over and do more finer sawing on this side, or creating notches or whatever. Now, would this be used as a projectile point later on when they got more narrow? Yeah, it's possible, I suppose. You steal someone's scraper and make a projectile point out of it. Yeah, I suppose. Or, you know, don't have to steal it. You can just use it for sawing out in the field, gathering foreshafts or arrow shafts or dart shafts or whatever. Maybe not arrow shafts, but dart shafts. Sawing, and then when it becomes more narrow, you can make it into a projectile point. Because it gets thicker as it gets more narrow. You know, the saw edge gets thicker, and it's not as easy to saw something with it. Another chopper type tool. This is well worn. It feels ground down a little bit. Maybe not here, but and you can easily hold it in the hand. Again, I don't know what they were chopping with these things. I really couldn't tell you. I wouldn't be separating bones at the joint with something like this, because sometimes you have to pry it, right, and it would snap little pieces of flint into the joint that you're trying to separate, unless you're not going to be eating any of that cartilage. I would just assume it's for processing something that you are not going to be eating, like the part that you're cutting at the joint between a stalk and a root. You're going to wash the root probably, and it's going to wash the flakes off if you get any flakes in there. And the stalks, you may be able to use it for something else, but you're not going to be eating them. Maybe you're using them for cordage or something, I don't know. But anyway, I wouldn't use this. I wouldn't use a rock that chips easily if I'm going to consume the meat or whatever I'm processing. Okay. Another unifacial tool here. I say it's a tool because there's a well-developed edge, either from use or intentional chipping on both sides. Now, have I used tools similar to this? Let me think here. Yeah, I have. I have for shaving down wood, or using it like an axe on the sides of wood to, on the side of I don't know, a thick knife handle to thin it down or straighten it out, or to contour it, right? Straight contour. But this feels left-handed to me, because I would use it like this, except in my right hand, because this smooth part would be up against the wood while I'm chopping it, you know, and shaving it down to contour the edge or contour the side of the piece of wood. This feels like a left-handed tool to me. At least that's what I would use it for. You know, chopping wood or shaping wood. Another unifacial tool with a worked edge. Now this is what looks like it would be a digging tool, or it could also be a processing tool like the other ones. It could be a chopper like the other ones. This feels See the angle here? This feels ground down or smooth. So that fits in the hand, and you can use it as a chopper. Or as a scraper too, I suppose. Some of these, you can tell, are multi-tools. Maybe not this one here, but some of them in this that I'm going to show you can be used for more than one thing. And maybe that's what this was used for. Chopping and scraping. It feels, well, it doesn't feel that well worn because it still has a little bit of a sharpness to it here, but this side is well worn, and that's going to be in the hand. It's a nice chopper. Let's see, this one here, this is a large version of what they call a backed blade or a backed knife, right? And you can see the use wear on this edge, and this is a very good saw type of thing. That's what I would use it for. Saw, either to create grooves in wood or to gather shafts or something. Nice and heavy too, so it can be used for chopping as well. And there's some modern dings, unfortunately, because of the little dogs in the yard. Now, could this all be dings from traffic, animal traffic, and campsites and human traffic? Just stepping on this, and this is actually a blank for a projectile point. Yep, could be. See, because these dings are not from me; they're from the animals. I didn't chip that; the animals did. So it could be that this was just subjected to a high volume of traffic. People were stepping on it or walking over it, or animals were trampling it. Or it could have been used as a saw, like a backed blade of some sort. I don't know. That one's a tough one. Okay, so there's another unifacial tool. Now this one looks like a multi-tool to me. It can be used to chop or to scrape. Looks like a big old side scraper. Or left-handed to be using to shape the outside of a piece of wood. But yeah, nice big tool. Very nice straight edge. So yeah, it could be just used to process a hide, although it's really heavy. I suppose that kind of helps too, to be heavy. I don't know. I haven't processed hides with something like this. I've tried with a smaller one. I've tried scraping a hide with a smaller one, like this, similar to this. It's a pain in the butt to do it with a small tool. The tool really has to be, or the blade really needs to be hafted somehow so that you have better grip on it when you're trying to deflesh a hide, because it really is stubborn. The flesh on the hide is pretty stubborn. Okay, so if you're using this to deflesh a hide, that's a pretty strong person, right? Just like that. Little ding there. Intentionally rounded on the sides. You can also push if you've got it, or pull. If you got it on a piece of wood, if the hide draped over a piece of wood, you can push with this. That would work pretty good. It's substantial enough that you could do it by pushing, but yeah, I suppose that could be done that way. Just push. Yeah, I think that's the way I would use this. To deflesh a hide over a beam or something, and the hide is up against your belly. The hide is between your belly and the beam, the end of the beam, and you're just scraping downward like this. Either to take the hair off or the flesh or both. Wet processing, to be more specific. Another unifacial tool. This one does look like a chopper to me. But again, we have a nice worked edge here, either from intentional chipping or use. It could also be one of those scraper type things. It doesn't really look like too much like a chopper on this end because there's still cortex, so it's not very sharp. So it does look like a scraper, side scraper, or a saw. Yeah, I can see myself using it as a saw, although it would take forever. It wouldn't go very deeply to make. It wouldn't make a very deep groove. All right. Very heavy tool, but you can see it very intentional working on this edge to create that straight cutting edge or scraping edge. This has got some use wear, but not much. Yeah, it does have a little bit. It's not that sharp here, but, and it's not that sharp right here, but here it is kind of, and then definitely sharp there, and sharp across here, all the way around, except for these areas up here. Anyway, I don't know. I would use this to chop wood, to shape sticks, because it's heavy. It'll do work for you. Now, the thumb probably would get in the way, so I don't know how they would use it. Although the angle is pretty good, as long as you have your thumb high enough, you can use it to shape wood. This edge does not look utilized. It's just this edge here. Okay. All right, so this one does look like a chopping tool, with the hand being placed on this side. Underdeveloped edges, although it could be a biface for a projectile point as well. So I couldn't tell you on this one. You know, all these river cobbles, they're going to feel worn because this is a natural surface, right? It's always going to be worn or feel like it's well worn, but sometimes they feel polished. And when it feels polished, you know that it's a good indication of human wear from hands or whatever. And this is worn a little bit. Again, not too much. So it's hard to tell. I couldn't tell you what it was on this one. Although it can be used as a chopper, it could also be a biface for a projectile point. Okay, now we're going to get into some hammerstones and stuff, right? This one here is interesting because it looks like a combination of three different styles of tools. It looks like a mono. This is perfectly smooth, very well rounded, like it was used as a mono to grind things on a metate, right? That's what that feels like, because it doesn't feel like the normal cortex. It feels more polished. This is rougher on this side than this side. This feels more polished. It's a chert nodule. It also has battering around the edges, around the outside. Now, I don't know if it was intentionally pecked that way to create the mono, or if it was a hammerstone at one time. Because that's just identical to hammerstone battering when you're using it as a hammerstone. And it's also a chopper. Now, this is a recent ding here from canine traffic. Let's call it canine traffic. And it's a very tough chert. This is not something you would want to use for a projectile point. It's extremely tough and grainy. It's like a rhyolite almost. But it would be a good chopper. So it has three different possible uses, and maybe it was used for all three at the same time. You can arguably use it as a mono and a chopper and a hammerstone. Well, this could be just pecking to shape it. You know what I mean? And it's not a hammerstone. It just looks like it because it's pecked in the same way that causes damage to a hammerstone. But yeah, it definitely feels like a mono. I have other monos of this size that are actually dedicated monos. All right. Let's see what else. We're running out of time here. Another interesting one. This is I think that's recent bird droppings. Okay. Again, this side here is nice and smooth, just like a mono. Again, to grind things down into a powder or whatever. It also has a very pointy, not very worn, I don't know what they call that, but that'll definitely put some holes in something. And it feels like it's been battered here on this edge. And it's a chert. Very tough, very grainy chert. Not really good for much else. Nice and heavy. I mean, this is a super heavy piece, and it feels polished on this side. And the contour is just right for grinding. So this could be used for 3 things as well: hammerstone, mono, and some kind of perforator. All right, so really quick, let me try to finish this up. A couple of nutting stones. All right, this one has actually 2 dimples, and they're thinking that they were putting acorns or pecans or something in these depressions and cracking them, cracking nuts. It would hold a nut more easily with that little intentional man-made depression in these stones. Now, could this be a hammerstone as well and hold it like this? I don't see the telltale signs of battering around the edges on this one. It just looks like a nutting stone. I got a bunch of these. So yeah, this one looks like it could have been battered here, but I don't think so. Maybe to shape it, but this is a definite nutting stone. Just something to you hold the nuts or seeds and then smash them. This one here could either be a nutting stone as well, although I don't think so, or a hammerstone, or both. This one exhibits a little bit more of a hammerstone look to it, although I don't see the classic looking hammerstone type of wear. Let me see if I can find one that has that. See this wear pattern on this one? That's a classic hammerstone dimpling or battering right here. This one doesn't seem to have it, although it could. This one is a softer stone than this. This is a chert, right? It's very, very hard. So this is a hard hammerstone. This is one of the hard hammerstones I have in my collection. It's just a river cobble of a very tough chert. But that could also be a grinding stone too, like a small mono. So it could be a multi-tool. But there's some obvious wear from battering on this side. Okay, so that's one of my hammerstones. Very hard. This one could be a hammerstone because it feels really, really good. But I can't tell if there's battering. There might be some here, but this is a tough one. Same with this. This looks like it could be used as a hammerstone because it feels really good in the hand. But I can't really tell if there's hammerstone type battering on here. Although that might be. Another hammerstone looks like, and this one has a classic type of breakage for when you're using it as a hammerstone. You get that kind of breakage. So I think this is a hammerstone. This is a medium grade. Feels like a piece of limestone. There's another battering area here. This one here, this one has a wear pattern, a hammerstone wear pattern here. It looks like, but that could be coincidence. It could be a natural surface, but that looks like That looks like a hammerstone damage, but it's hard to tell. This looks like it might be some battering as well. I just picked one that looked like it could be a hammerstone, but it might not be. It might just be a grinding stone. This one here has obvious use wear here and here. So this is a medium grade stone. Could also be a nutting stone. This feels like a very hard limestone. This is not a chert, so this would be a medium grade. This would be a softer grade, and it has a classic damage to it. So this is probably used as a hammerstone as well. So you have 3 different grades. Very hard, medium, and soft. Okay. A couple more here. This one is going to be a medium grade. It looks like a hammerstone, although it could be incidental damage. It doesn't have to be from human use, but it feels like it's a good hammerstone. This one is also a medium grade. It does look like it has obvious battering on the ends, and it does feel like a good hammerstone, or even like you can use it like a billet. Oh, it doesn't have much wear. I would expect to see a lot more wear on something like this if it was used as a hammerstone, but you never know. These two are very well-worn nodules made of very tough chert, and they're just really polished and well-worn. So I don't know if they were used as hammerstones or what, but they're very well ground down. These are a mystery to me. I think that's obvious battering, but I can't tell for sure if it's man-made or formed in a river. This is just a bulb of percussion that popped out of the chert after being smashed somehow and then rolled around in the stream. It could have just been rolling in the stream. Same with this, could have been rolling. Feels very worn, but it could also be a hammerstone, right? There's some obvious wear in some of this. It looks like right here, but again, it could have just been rolling in the stream or river. Okay, that's it. Hope that was interesting. I'll try to figure out what that is. May just be a charm, who knows. Okay.